Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday evening. Happy regular season to all of you who celebrate. We are in the throes in the second quarter of the final preseason game of 2023. Mercifully, the Saints, the Titans' Week 1 opponent, and their division rivals, the Houston Texans, currently squaring off in preseason action. The preseason finale for the 2023 exhibition slate. We are going to have actual football to talk about in the coming weeks, not that far away at all from Week 1 down in New Orleans. In fact, by this time next week, well, not next week because it's Labor Day weekend, but in 2 weeks from today, we will be talking about an NFL football game featuring your Tennessee Titans. So we are going to talk a lot about roster cuts. Some have already come down. That will happen officially on Tuesday, where the roster will go from 90 in total to 53. Kicker is obviously something that is going to headline today's discussion, given that one of the roster cuts was the only kicker on the roster. We'll do that, and we'll take your temperature in terms of your confidence level in the kicking situation. We will do this as a free site, the best thing that I saw on the internet this weekend. We're looking forward to getting into a lot of different things with you over the course of the next hour or so. First, need you guys to share this broadcast around, though, if you would be kind enough to do so. If you are on Twitter, please retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, like Chris Frazier or Karen O'Keefe, you can like the video, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. YouTube or Twitch, you can also like the video. You can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you've done both of those things, be kind enough to tell a friend to do the same. We'd be grateful for you and anybody who shares this show around so we can have a larger conversation amongst more of us as friends. Football season is officially upon us. The Vols kick off first, then the Titans will as well. It is football time in the state of Tennessee, and it feels so good. So let's talk about a kicker situation that probably doesn't feel that good. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday night. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free. The new way to work out for the new you, TrueMathFitness.com, is where you go. And the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, Amanda J. has you covered. AmandaJGentry.com is where you can find out how she can protect your constitutional rights. So, preseason finale for the Tennessee Titans. They end up getting a win over the Patriots. We're going to talk a lot about the quarterback situation tomorrow, probably. And obviously, roster cuts will officially have come down Tuesday, so we'll have a full show reacting to that after the 3 p.m. Central Time deadline. But with all of the things coming out of the preseason finale, I think a lot of people had some things set in their heads. One, for example, is that Malik Willis was kind of, automatically the backup quarterback. Now, Mike Vrabel didn't really put it that way, but I do think that there's enough cause to think that Malik Willis will be the backup quarterback come Week 1. In the meantime, though, I want to start with your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch if you want to get involved. In the comment section, I'd like to know which player on the Titans roster will be the most surprising cut to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. That's your Two Rivers Ford take. We can get into it together right after I remind you that Two Rivers Ford makes your Two Rivers Ford take possible. They are the preferred car buying experience. DeAndre Hopkins, a customer at Two Rivers Ford. I am Coach Mack, Ramon Foster, Don Davenport. Middle Tennesseans over 40 years have been customers at Two Rivers Ford because they do business with honesty and integrity. Get your new or certified pre-owned vehicle today at tworiversford.com. So your Two Rivers Ford take could be the most surprising cut on the roster. John Vargas says, hey, honestly, I'm happy to see the progress from Malik. Clean up the turnovers and we can have a McNair 2.0. Well, let's, the guy just played in a preseason game. Don't put him in the same category as a player who went to a Super Bowl and was a co-MVP. That's complete, it's a complete no reason at all. In fact, I really hate that as a comment, just because there's no reason at all to operate in those extremes. Don't even put him in the same sentence as McNair. For what? You're doing the guy a disservice when you completely project that way. Stephen King says any of the quarterbacks. Buck was wrong about 3 quarterbacks. We'll see. I maintain that the quarterback situation is more likely than not going to be 3 quarterbacks. But yeah, it's just hard for me to imagine another scenario. Like, the only other scenario that makes sense is if they were to cut Malik and sign a veteran while keeping Levis on the roster and still do 3 quarterbacks. But even that seems like a bit of a stretch right now. No Alert says Hassan Haskins is a surprise cut. I don't know that I would be surprised about Hassan Haskins, because I had to think about this myself. And it's it's a tougher question to answer. I think that of the cuts that they made today, just to kind of, and obviously we'll talk about the kicker more specifically, that's going to be the most dramatic one, and there will continue to be transactions as the week gets further along. So they cut today Michael Badgley, defensive back LJ Davis, wide receiver Gavin Holmes, offensive lineman Jack Johnson and James Murray, and tight end Justin Riggs. So that was the extent of the cuts that they announced officially today. Who will be the surprise cut on the roster that we are not expecting? Michael Smith says Dow will be the most surprising cut. Again, I don't Dow would not be a surprise. He's a 7th round pick who's not, he's not better than any of the guys that would beat him out for a regular season roster spot. He's not better than NWI. He's not better than Chris Moore, obviously Burks, Phillips, Hopkins. Now Phillips' situation, right, is the curiosity, and who that wide receiver 6 or 7 is, depending on how many they end up keeping. Dow, though, I don't think Dow, I don't know that Dow would make the roster over Kyrus Jackson, for example. Dow is a good practice squad candidate. I think he could get through on waivers. Trippin' Titan says Dow looked good on Friday night. Well, Mike Vrabel said it took him a minute, right? I think he was a little jittery. He was playing at home. He's a Titans fan. He knows where he sits in the stadium when he's been growing up in Lebanon, going to Titans games. Like, it was an electric moment for him, and he was really, really, it was cool to talk to him about it afterwards in the locker room. And he did, but he looked good. He was the leading receiver with 2 catches for 49 yards. So let's not get crazy with looking good, right? That should, you need a higher bar than if that is your standard for looking good. Michael Smith says Phillips should be cut. He's not going to be. William Jones says Jocks Patrick, or Jock. I don't know if it's Jacquez or Jocks Patrick, but certainly he's trying to make the case to make this roster. The numbers are just complicated at running back right now. I think Chestnut would be. I think Chestnut would make the most sense to keep of the running backs who are kind of on the chopping block. But I think that I don't know that Patrick would be a surprise necessarily. I think there's I think there's a couple of different players that you could look at, but one that, and I think there's a pretty good chance that this guy ends up making the roster. But if we came down tomorrow or Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, and you told me that Caleb Murphy, the edge rusher out of Ferris State, had been released, I wouldn't be surprised. And I'll explain to you why right after you hear from Caleb Murphy when I caught up with him in the locker room on Friday evening.
I think the Lord has put me in a position where, I'm grateful for everything I have, so every opportunity I've had, I'm going to continue to, thank him and continue to put my trust in him.
You walk out of here pretty confident tonight that
whether
it's here or somewhere, you're gonna be somewhere in this league?
Oh, yeah, that's always been a known thing, no matter how I get there or when I get there, I'm going to be something somewhere at some point.
Thanks, Kevin.
How much did you appreciate the opportunity that you got from the coaching staff? Sorry if you already answered that, but kind of extended work there.
Oh, no, yeah. I love the coaches here. They see me. I came in here. I was probably a deer in the headlights when I got here, but they took their time. They were patient with me, and helped me, you know, build my craft and just work on some things that I needed to. So I'm very thankful for the opportunities that they've given me.
Specifically, like working with Coach Crow, what have you kind of taken from him so far?
Crow has showed me how violent I truly can be. I'll say that for sure. He's one of those guys, you know, you just get juice from him coming in and out. So, you know, he helps you with your confidence, just walking in and out, all those things. I mean, Crow is a great coach, great teacher. So, you know, I listen about everything he says.
So that's Caleb Murphy. And Michael Smith says, I don't see him getting cut. You know, the question is who's going to be surprised, right? I think you guys are naming some obvious names. Caleb Murphy would be a surprise to see him cut, but I also think there's precedent for a move like that. He's a good football player, and I think that you need more pass rushers. You need more pass rushers than not. Music City Malik says, why would Vrabel give up on him? 4 sacks in 3 games. Well, again, don't scout by sacks, even though he is consistently finding ways to get to the quarterback. Sacks do matter to an extent. It's not the best measure of an individual pass rusher, though. Now, maybe he ends up on the 53. It's entirely possible that he ends up on the 53. But I'm explaining to you why I think he could be out here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, they mean those words. They've practiced in Tennessee family and criminal courts in 35 counties in the great state of Tennessee. Amanda J. and her team are there to protect your constitutional rights. A lot of us can be ignorant of what our constitutional rights exactly are. That's why the team of the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry are there to help you. Wherever justice demands, they mean it. AmandaJGentry.com. So why I think he could be a surprise cut for no other reason than they keep a pretty tight rotation at outside linebacker. Typically, if you go back through the years of the Titans under Mike Vrabel, they don't usually have more than 3 outside linebackers, like pure outside linebackers on the roster. They have Danico Autry, who plays outside or rushes outside from time to time. They obviously have Weaver, they have Harold Landry, and they have Arden Key. They also have Sam O, who can play down defensive lineman, but also can fill in as an Autry backup. Now, is Murphy, for example, more valuable than Sam O? I think that many of you would make the case. I think he's a higher ceiling player. It's a matter of, all right, can he play special teams? Because the 4th pass rusher, if they're going to keep a 4th pass rusher, is probably going to be at the expense of a defensive lineman or an inside backer who might be a better special teams player. I don't think that Caleb Murphy would get through the waiver wire. I think Caleb Murphy would be snatched up by another team. And you can't keep all of these guys, try as you might. But I think that typically, you look at how the Titans have handled their outside linebacker position, and 3 players, specifically outside linebackers, not front 7 guys, but 3 outside linebackers is usually the way that they go. Dreamaholic says, Buck, what are you talking about? Well, I've literally just articulated it. Are you a poor listener? Or are you having a slow evening? It's Sunday night. I would forgive you if you are, but I believe I've just pretty well or pretty specifically articulated my point there, so I can say it slower for you if you prefer. But if you're asking me what I'm talking about, I've literally just explained to you what I'm talking about. So I would say to you, keep up. I think that when you look at this, could you make the argument for 4 outside linebackers? Yes, I think most of you would. But it's almost like Ryan Tannehill not playing in the preseason until Friday night. He played in the preseason. It's the first time that he's done it as the starter under Mike Vrabel. What did Mike Vrabel have him do? Mike Vrabel had him hand off the ball 3 times, then took him out for the rest of the game. Typically, Ryan Tannehill doesn't play in the preseason under Mike Vrabel. Typically, the Titans don't keep more than 3 outside linebackers on the active roster under Mike Vrabel. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but right now, we have precedent to go off of. Caleb Murphy makes the decision more difficult, and that's a good place to exist. Trippin' Titan says, what was the deal with Dillard playing so long? Well, I wrote about that at ADZsports.com. You can go check that out if you like. Mike Vrabel and the challenge specifically that he issued towards the offensive line. I think we can look at a couple of different those 3 plays were a waste, says Kenny Hill talking about Tannehill. Well, not if the objective, which I'm convinced was their objective, was to sell a few extra tickets for a Friday night preseason game. I bet they brought in a few more people or got a few more people to buy preseason Titans tickets just because it had been out there for basically the entire day that Ryan Tannehill was going to play. So I think it got a few more people in the building than might otherwise have been. But other than that, yeah, I don't think that was a particularly effective exercise or particularly useful exercise. B. French says, is Caleb Farley making the team? Is this too soon to talk about? Well, I imagine that he's going to be on PUP, so he doesn't take up an active roster spot. Now, I think the term or the designation is reserve PUP, and I'll give you guys a more specific definition of how that is managed once the regular season begins. So if placed on the reserve PUP list for the regular season, a player wouldn't count against the active roster, but would be required to sit out the first 4 games of the season. So Farley and Radens probably both fit that designation. I think that Caleb Farley and I would imagine Dylan Radens would both start the year on the reserve PUP list. Radens making more progress on the field. Farley, obviously with his family situation going on, his disc, the disc injury in his back as he continues to rehabilitate that, PUP is probably the most likely designation for those two. But let's talk about kicker. A lot of you guys are commenting correctly that the Titans are without a kicker anywhere on the roster because they cut the only one that they had today. So the question that I want to ask you is, what is your level of confidence in the Titans kicking situation? We will discuss right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com. Get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Nobody puts you in better position to physically succeed than the folks at True Math Fitness. Their coaching staff is awesome. You're going to get an individualized approach, even if you're taking the group classes. If you, of course, like personal training, you will get a more individualized approach as you look to improve your physical fitness. Whether it's for your health, for weight loss, to build muscle mass, to tone, whatever your desire is, True Math Fitness can put you on the correct path. Get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident at truemathfitness.com. So what is your level of confidence in the kicking situation? They cut Michael Badgley today. Mickey Ryan, my dear friend and colleague at 104.5 The Zone, put out this tweet about the kickers under Mike Vrabel. It's almost like, the stat about Colts starting quarterbacks in the last couple of seasons, how they've had something like 7 or 8 different starting quarterbacks to begin each regular season since Andrew Luck retired. I think it's 7 or 8. It's a pretty substantial number. But here are the Titans kickers since Mike Vrabel started here in Tennessee. Ryan Suckup in 2018. Suckup, Santoso, Parkey, Joseph. So that's an additional 5 kickers used in 2019. In 2020, it was Sloman and Gostkowski. In 2021, it was Badgley, then Bullock. In 2022, Bullock, Shudak, Lambo. In 2023, Shudak, Wolf, Badgley, and now soon another name to be added to that list. So that is, a couple of these guys are repeat offenders. Shudak, Bullock, and Suckup have all kicked for the Titans. Badgley, too, I guess, have all kicked for the Titans in multiple seasons. But that's still 12 kickers from 2018 to the present. It appears that they don't care. So if you're asking my level of confidence in the kicker, it was 0. But you guys knew how I felt about Michael Badgley as soon as he got here. I didn't think that dude was long for this job at all. Basically, as soon as he landed, And Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff apparently agreed. And I thought his post-game comments were frankly just kind of weirdly nonchalant.
They know you better than what maybe some of them.
You know, obviously, I think a lot of stuff speaks for itself in what I've done in regular seasons. So we'll see what they feel, and that's out of my hands.
Michael, just how do you feel about the kicking game today? And obviously, the missed one you probably want back. But what'd you see on that one that maybe was off?
There's no explanation. Just missed it. I wouldn't say I kicked my greatest today. Some went in, missed one, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I wish I kicked a little bit better today, but I was happy with how kickoffs went.
Anything happened in particular, one that you missed, Michael?
Just missed it. Yeah.
So, I mean, to an extent, what else is he going to say? Yeah, I just missed it. But I think it's the smirk, it's the laugh, it's the I think that dude knew that he was going to be short-lived here as well. But maybe the uncomfortable or the sarcastic chuckle afterwards. It didn't seem like he cared too terribly much whether he latched on here or not, which is not exactly what you want. He was nervous and giggles, says Chris Young. I mean, maybe. Like some people do laugh when they're nervous, right? Some people laugh when they're uncomfortable. That may be just something like that he was, that he was just trying to get through the awkwardness of, hey, I know you're going to talk to me about getting cut potentially, and I've been through this before. I don't know him like that. He's not been here. He's been here twice, and he hasn't been here long enough for any of us to get to know him. But it did feel like he knew that he was gone one way or the other. And if you're asking for my level of confidence, my level of confidence is a 0 in the Titans kicking situation. Let's do this as a free site. The best thing that I saw on the internet this week. The question that I want to ask you is this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Not scale of 1 to 10 Vandy's scoreboard situation. But what I want to ask you is, what was the best thing that you saw from week 0 of the college football weekend? Notre Dame, USC, Caleb Williams, Sam Hartman getting involved, Vanderbilt and Hawaii obviously participating. Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch what was your favorite moment from week 0 of the college football season, because college football officially back in our lives. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. What was the best thing that you saw from week 0 of college football? For me, I don't think there's any question that it was the Vanderbilt scoreboard situation.
Oh, I see that. This player scored a goal. It was like, that was the animation. There was no way. Oh, I see that.
So I'm going to throw that up there again. This is Vanderbilt Stadium. I think it's First Bank Stadium are the naming rights, and they are still under construction, but had to play a football game there this past Saturday night. Now, if you lived in Nashville, that we had some storms, we had some lightning. So Vanderbilt was not only delayed for lightning, their stadium is not done. Their scoreboard is being held up by 2 cranes as it blows in the wind as what is probably the biggest lightning risk or lightning strike risk on the field.
Oh, I see that. This player scored a goal. It was like, that was the animation. There was no way.
It was laugh out loud funny to see that on television last night. Now, ultimately, Vandy went on to win the game. So congratulations to the Commodores on starting their season 1-0. But they made it a lot closer than I think people thought they would against Hawaii. Hawaii had a really big night against an SEC defense. I know Vanderbilt's secondary is bad, but I didn't think they were going to be that bad. Okay. That's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Roster cuts and quarterback conversation tomorrow. Radio show. We're going to dive into the challenge that Mike Vrabel issued to the first team offensive line. You'll hear from him about Andre Dillard and why he played so late into the game, and about the quarterback situation behind Ryan Tannehill, which is apparently still up in the air. Have a great rest of your evening. We will talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal a show.